Hello. I'm gonna be ranking and rating every episode of Murder Drones. I'm using my actual voice because I'm not typing all of this out. I learned that from another video I made, that I'm not typing all of this. Before we start, disclaimer, I'm not saying these episodes are bad, and I'm not saying anything bad to anyone who likes them. But yeah, that's it. Let's get on with it now. Okay, episode 1, aka the pilot. I really like this episode. I like the introductions. If I'm being honest, I actually really don't like Uzi. But yeah, I really like this episode. I wish that we got at least Jay killing some worker drones. I'm glad we saw the end scene. I mean, we did see V kill a murder drone, kill a worker drone, but I mean, it was only for a short clip of it, so. But I don't think we saw Jay kill anyone, and I really wish that we did. Overall, I give this episode a solid 8 out of 10. Okay, this is episode 2, Heartbeat. So, I like this episode, I dislike it. The reason being, it didn't feel like something you could understand watching it for the first time. Because I actually had to rewatch this episode. This is the only episode in the series that I had to rewatch to make this video. And that was because I didn't remember anything. This was the first episode that mentioned the Absolute Solver, but I actually had no memory of the Absolute Solver until like later episodes. Like so many times in this episode, I just went, oh, so that actually explains this. It didn't really feel like something you could watch for the first time. For that, I give it a 5.5 out of 10. Oh my god, that episode was so non-memorable for me that I forgot entirely to mention the intro scene with N and the Elliot mansion. I really love that scene because it had Sin in it. But yeah, that's it. I just forgot about that. Okay, now we make it to episode 3, The Promenading. In every murder drone thinking I've ever seen, this episode always is either second place or first place. And I see why this is an absolutely amazing episode. Of course, there were some parts that I didn't like, such as I wanted Doll to have like a bigger character in the actual series, and I feel like she didn't get enough screen time. She did get some, but I don't think it was enough. I just really wish that Doll did end up teaming up with Uzi and V, because I would have really liked having 2 disassembly drones and 2 worker drones. I feel like that would have worked really nicely, and 2 solvers on the same group. That would have been amazing. And like, Doll is a fan favorite character. Well, not the fan favorite, but one of them. She's pretty high up there. But yeah, I really like this episode. I'll give it, this is a good episode, 9 out of 10. Okay, now we got episode 4, Cabin Fever. I have a love-hate relationship with this episode. It's like, it was better than episode 2, but I still don't like it and I don't dislike it. I'm neutral in this episode. I'm leaning more to liking it because of like Uzi committing murder, which was interesting as a plot point. The one thing I didn't like about this episode was actually N and V being there, because they were like the counselors in this episode, but I don't know how they got hold of N and V to ask them to go on this field trip, and why they did that, because N literally murdered a bunch of door workers. But I like this episode. It only made sense that N and V were there at the end of the episode. It didn't make sense for them to be there for the rest of the episode. I did like them in this episode. I just don't think it made much sense that they were there. I will give this episode a 6.5 out of 10. Okay. Episode 5, Home. So, this actually, surprisingly to me, is actually a pretty hated episode. But I'm gonna be real, this was my favorite Murder Drones episode. I love this episode. Okay, I mean, what wasn't amazing about this? We had Tessa. We had Sin. We had Maid J. We had Maid V. Butler N. It was perfect. I loved how this episode portrayed Sin. And I love how it showed N, actually. And I love how it showed the Elliot family. And why Tessa was so liked. And, like, who Tessa was to them. Because Tessa was mentioned in episode 2, but just not past the introduction. The only thing that I really hated about this episode, surprisingly, was that Uzi was in the episode. Because something I really like about a lot of series is where it has a flashback episode. Where it's like nothing, it just shows the characters. And I know that this episode was Uzi giving the N and V their memories back. But I don't think she should have really been there. And it was kind of weird how she showed up at the most convenient times. I didn't like how conveniently she showed up. I actually really don't like Uzi. That was the one thing I didn't like about this episode. But oh my god, this was my favorite episode of Murder Drones ever. It always will be. I loved this episode. I cannot stress that enough. You will not have to discard your pets, and I will not discard you. General consensus, 10 out of 10. Okay, now we're on episode 6, Dead End. This was this was the Tessa episode. I really liked Tessa in this episode, but I also really hated her, so that was something there. I really liked this episode. I don't know why. There was just something about it I really liked. I could watch this episode and not get tired of it. I don't have a lot to say on this episode, but I feel like I really wish that V died, even though I love her. Because it would have made sense, and it would have been angsty in edits. Yeah. Okay, episode 7, Mass Destruction. This episode, I'd put it higher than Heartbeat and Cabin Fever, but it's not my favorite. I feel like there was too much going on, and it was just a load of stuff. It felt like it was just 3 episodes crammed into 20 minutes, and I watched Murder Drones with me and my brother. We just had questions by the end of this episode. I don't feel like enough was answered. I just feel like in place of answers, they put more questions. I feel like it didn't really set the stage for a good final answer. It felt like it was too much. I like the oh my god, N killed Tessa moment. But other than that, I don't really remember anything about this episode because there was too much. It wasn't really episode 2 or it wasn't memorable, it was just too much. I'll give this a 6.5 once again. Okay, final episode. This was great. It wasn't peak, in my opinion, but it was actually really great. I really love Skin Suit, Tessa, Sin. Sin had some great lines in this episode, especially the, okay, you first, Eager Beaver. I love that in Hello, Uzi. Hi, N. I love those lines. I just love Sin in this episode. It was a beautiful, great episode. I didn't really like the ending scene, but it was fine. I don't have much to say about this episode other than I absolutely loved it. And I think I put this at second place with a 9.5 out of 10.